Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm really excited. I have my brand new friend, John Hill, with me. And spoiler alert, John and I have already talked for a few minutes before we hit record, and we covered a lot of gold. My apologies to the reader or listener because it was gold. John, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to get into what you do.
Okay. I am the founder of the Good Contractors List, a company that I founded out in Dallas, Fort Worth back in 2011. And I have just an amazing story to tell because I'm not a business guy. And so I really felt like when I created that I was at the end of my rope. And so I really feel like this will appeal to a lot of different listeners here, especially those that have felt like they've reached the end of their life. They're done, they're tired, and don't have a purpose. And I just want to show, with my story that God has a purpose for you. And then we can just kind of go from there. But
I love it.
I'm married. I have with 5 kids altogether, 3 step kids, 2 of my own, and an 8th grandchild on the way. So that's where my favorite title of all is Papa. So
I love it. And I think, I used to share office space with a friend of mine, and he had this sign that said, the most important things aren't things. And he lived and breathed for his grandkids. And I think, in my world, I'm family first. And if people don't respect that, we have nothing else to talk about because fundamentally we're not a fit.
That's right. I love it.
Let's start with your origin. And I really love, I'll let you tell it in your words, but I love how you hit rock bottom. You had a certain prayer you wished was answered. And as Garth Brooks so eloquently said, some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. So let's start with your unanswered prayer and let's see where we go from there.
Yeah, in 2011, I was 42 years old, a couple weeks away from my 43rd birthday, and I was looking back on my life. I've just, I was tired. I was depressed. I did not see a future, and so I began praying that God would kill me. That was my prayer. It's like, God, just kill me, get me off this planet. I'm done. I look back. I had 3 divorces, no career. Just a real disappointment to everybody. I have 2 beautiful, wonderful daughters that were getting older now. They were, stepping out on their own, and I was divorced from their mom. So I was like, everybody would be fine without me. There's nothing I have to offer. And that's where I was. And then in February of 2011, a big freeze had hit Dallas, Fort Worth. And I was outside smoking a cigarette. I was living with my girlfriend and was outside smoking a cigarette, really just at the lowest point in my life. And I started coughing. And next thing you know, I'm coughing up blood. And the roads were completely frozen. So I was like, went in and told my girlfriend, I was like, listen, I think I need to go lay down. I'm coughing up blood. And they're like, no, you're going to the hospital. That's not normal, John. And so
that's not a lay down affliction. No.
I probably coughed too hard. I thought maybe it was bronchitis or whatever. Went to the hospital. They checked me out. My lungs were full of fluid, and they thought, oh, okay, well, you look like you're in pretty good shape. Must be pneumonia. So they admitted me for pneumonia and sent my family home. Now, the roads were dangerous, so it's like I really hated them being out here for all that. But so they started draining the fluid in my lungs and was cool. So later on after that evening, like after everybody, it was after dark. It was late in the night, and I was having a breathing treatment, and I was like kind of almost in a panic. It was like, I can't. This is not doing me any good. And the doctor comes in and goes, man, this just doesn't look like pneumonia to me. And she goes, let's do a couple more tests. And so they did some blood tests, and she comes back in just white as a sheet. She's like, sir, this is not pneumonia. We believe this is your heart, and we need you. Can you call your family and have them come back up here? We're going to do some more tests on you. And I was like, what? Why in the world would I bring my family up here at 2 a.m, on frozen roads? And and she goes, no, please, just have them come back up here. We're going to be bringing you to ICU. Like, she was trying to be as calm as possible.
Yeah. Calmly telling you this is a problem.
Yeah. And it's still, not quite registering what is going on. Okay. So it's my heart. They're going to do some more tests. What's going on there? So called them. They were going to be on their way up, and one of the nurses was talking to the doctor and says, don't you have to get permission from the director to move him to ICU? And I heard this because it was 2 o'clock in the morning. There was no sound anywhere from anywhere. And doctor goes, not in this case. He's tombstone.
Wow.
I was like, tombstone? What? Am I dying? Like I was like, wow. And then I was like, well, you know what? This is dying. It's not that bad. I probably will just go, And now I was raised in a Christian household. I was at church every Sunday, every Wednesday growing up, and it was a Pentecostal church. I don't know if you know much about the different denominations, but Pentecostals, they it's like if you have sin on the books when you get to heaven, you ain't getting in. And so it was at that point I wasn't sure I was a Christian anymore. I'd tried to perform for years, trying to live up to God's standards and all those things, and which is one of the reasons I felt like such a disappointment, and so here I had this opportunity to repent of all my sins right there at my death. It's like a Pentecostal's dream to be able to get a repentance in before you die. What I'm saying? So there I was. I was like, oh my gosh, God, and was ready to go. And so they're willing me to ICU, and I'm just laying there thinking about this life that I lived, and I wasn't afraid. I had peace. And then this voice, just like a strong impression, just kind of came out of nowhere. And it was like, John, do you want to stay or do you want to go? Like, I felt it. I felt the heaviness of that question. It's like, what? You're giving me that choice? I've been praying for you to kill me for 2 months now. But the voice kind of came back and said, and this is not audible. I'm not trying to say that it was a strong impression that I had that came from somewhere else. That's all I can say. It felt like, and if you decide to stay, I will be with you and I will give you a purpose. At this point, I had felt purposeless. I had tried my best to be as good a person as I could be. I tried to have careers and different things. Never, at this time I'm selling coupons. That's what I was doing for a living. And so I had nothing looking back to say, that I'm going to be able to do this purpose, but I trusted him. And so I started thinking about it. And if this is going to be my decision, I had some things that I wanted, to give him that I needed to hear back from. And I was like, okay, all right, God, I'll stay if it's okay with you. And that's where I was. Matter of fact, I was waiting for they had catheterized me, and I was waiting for the cardiologist to come in, who was trying to navigate through icy streets. So it took him an hour to get in there. And I mean, people were just all standing behind the glass, wall, like you see in the movies, watching what was going on, because they were getting ready to, this guy's going to die right here. And at that point, I just said, I'd like to stay if that's okay with you. But then I had some conditions. I was like, I do not want to be the same guy I've been. And here are the things that I asked for. I said, I want to be remembered for doing something good. I want to live every day, not just be alive.
Yeah.
I want to touch as many people as I can the rest of the time I have on this planet. And all I can say was, louder than any voice I'd heard up to that point, it was a resounding, so be it. Like it was done. And it was like I was laying on that bed, and I felt like if I could see into the spirit realm, it was like God was dancing around my bed. That's what it felt like. Like he was dancing around my bed, going, "That's my boy. I will be with you, and I will give you a purpose." And so, doctor comes in, looks at the they had catheterized me, and they had pumped the dye through my heart, and he was showing me, because I was still awake for the whole thing, 100% blockage in one artery, 95% blockage in the other artery. I'd already had a massive heart attack. And
Wow.
And so he goes, I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to fix this with stents. I may have to crack you open. That's what he said. And I was like, hey, do what you got to do. I'm going to be here. I've already heard from God. And so he did, and he put in 3 stents, and blood returned to the backside of my heart. It had not been blood hadn't been really flowing back there at all. The crowd erupts behind the glass. It was probably the most emotional moment, of my life at that point. To know that I survived, and to hear that roar of just people clapping, and they just couldn't believe that I'd lived. And so that's where I was, and all I knew at that point was God was going to be with me, and I had a purpose.
It's fascinating, and for what it's worth, your story is fantastic. It's one I've actually heard versions of before, and I think the big thing I want to pull out of that was, and it applies to the picture behind you, the lamb and the lion. A lot of entrepreneurs, the version I've heard and the version I've experienced, is we think it's us. We are us against the world. The myth of the self-made man, that's a lie, by the way.
Yes.
But it's when we surrender that we find our purpose. And then once you've surrendered to that purpose, get out of the way, because it's happening. It's inevitable.
That's exactly right. Yeah, Jeff, man, that's exactly right. And that's where I was. It's like, God, I don't know how to do this right. Look, I've messed everything up to this point. So I left there only knowing I have a purpose, which made me forget about the past. And it was a learning experience over the next, really, it's going to be a learning experience till you die, really, until you get to the end of your life. But to walk out of there with no past that would ever suggest I was going to do anything, and just every day was me going, Lord, I'm ready for your purpose. Whatever happens today, and this is where the faith comes in. Whatever happened today was part of that purpose. Good, bad, ugly, I don't care. You're taking me somewhere. Yeah. I'm going to learn something from this day. Whatever it was. And so next thing you know, I'm actually living. I'm not just existing anymore, because I'm not stuck in the past. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is I'm a man with purpose.
Yep.
Right where I'm at, selling coupons. And so I just gave every day fully to doing, working as unto the Lord. You've heard that term before. That's what I was doing. I was like, I'm just going to do what I can today. And if I get an opportunity to make someone's day, to say something kind, it was just like, I was truly living. And so he was just keeping his promises from day one. It takes a lifetime, I really feel like, to be remembered for doing something good. And you don't touch as many people as possible until you've touched as many people as possible. So that most of this was future for me. But right now, the one thing I was sure of is I'm living every day, to its fullest. Not that every day has been perfect, but I know that every day is part of my purpose. There's a big difference whenever you can say that.
And I think that's what I would argue is a lot of people think, well, it's my mission. No, it's not.
Yeah.
When you're given a mission, you just, okay. By the way, when I received mine, I negotiated, I fought it, and I'm like, nope. Yeah. And the message kept coming in, and I'm like, fine. But, the big thing for me was, I'm a big fan of Carl Jung. He calls it the death of the self, the small s, to
Yes.
be reconnected with the capital S self, which is our higher purpose. And some people are not religious, but the reality is there is a greater good than each of us individually. And the arrogance of us as humanity, this is, a friend of mine calls it the original sin, was pride. We actually think we know what's, I see a lot of people, they pray for something that assumes we know better than the master plan of what our something should be.
Yeah, it's funny too that you're saying that, because I like, there are people who spend hours and hours praying on, and I didn't change into that person. I didn't change into a religious person. I just trusted God and had a relationship with him. I trusted that Jesus did what he did and that he truly is who he is. And, the Bible says that we were crucified with Christ. It's no longer we that live, right? It's no longer I that lives, but Christ lives in me, right? And I live my life now by faith in the one who died for me and changed everything, right? So my job every day isn't to try to figure out what I need to do to impress or, perform or do whatever I need to for God. My job is to let him live through me. And so when you're doing that, you don't have the expectations kind of just drop. It's like, if I do something great today, it's because of him. If I struggle with something, he's bringing me through. It's and so when I got to that place, it was such a relief to not have to be the guy that's responsible for it. Yeah. He became responsible for my future, and I put my faith in that. And so, it wasn't a change overnight, but it's hard to pray for certain things when it's just like, that might not be what you want from me.
Yeah.
So all I can say is, God, it's your will, and if he puts something in my heart to pray about, I'm going to pray about it. But just praying just to get that religious thing out, just reading the Bible just to get that religious check mark, it's bondage. That's what it is. And so there's so many people who are trying to perform for God to prove that they're good, when God says we are good, we are righteous when we receive him as our righteousness. And so even messing up didn't have the same impact on me anymore. I didn't go, oh, there I go again, disappointing everybody. There I go again, making the same mistakes. It was like, thank you, Lord, that you've already taken all this and it's going to be used for your good, however it looks.
Yeah. It's funny, John. I was talking to, I have some very strange conversations, but a friend of mine, he was saying, go read the Bible. And he said, it is fascinating because somebody who hasn't found their purpose, they'll read the Bible and go, oh my God, he's a cruel and vengeful father. It's kind of, what kind of father would act like this? And then once people have been given a mission, they go back and read it. They go, wow, what a kind father, because he's giving us the chance to earn the mission. And I find it fascinating because people who haven't completely changed their lives, they're still trying to be good. Whereas once you've got your mission, good is the default. And, it's freeing when it's not my fault or not my good. It's just, I'm the vessel. And
exactly.
People think I'm weird, but I write books, and when I write them, when it's Jeff writing, I sit down and I struggle and I curse at the blank page. But when I just be quiet and let them come to me, it's literally like a download.
That's
and it. I'll sit down for a couple hours and oh my God, I wrote this book.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I don't even call them my books anymore. It's just I brought another book into the world. And I think that's the freedom, is when you recognize there is a higher calling, we can all serve one another. Now, let's pivot here to your good guys, because I'm fascinated. I'm going to guess when you started, a lot of people told you were crazy because of your guarantee. So how did that come about?
Well, I mean, like I said, I was not a businessman. I didn't know what my purpose was going to be. I was selling coupons. And so I started, I was out talking to all types of different businesses about buying a coupon. It was a company called Money Mailer. And basically it was an envelope that had coupons in it that got mailed out to home. So it was direct mail. Yeah. And I sold the ads that went inside the envelope. And so one day I was talking to a contractor, and I'd actually built a couple of websites in the past, just little simple ones, just playing around on with it was called Homestead, but like Wix. There's a lot of online kind of website builders, and so I'd built a few websites. But while I was talking to this plumber, he told me, he said, I don't really want to spend this much money with just me. He goes, but I know a electrician that I trust, and I know a roofer that I trust locally, and we could share this ad. And I was just like, that's weird. It's like, and then I was like, well, I don't know how that would look on a coupon to have 3 different people on a coupon.
Yeah.
But it resonated with me that here's a guy that has a good reputation in town that says there's 2 other good people that I would be willing to share an ad with, and they're from different services, so they wouldn't be competing. Next thing you know, you said it, the download started happening. I was like, what? Okay, wait a second. I couldn't sleep for 2 days. Like, I was like, am I supposed to build a website for this? And so I started, the more I thought about it, and I was like, nah, I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how to do, I don't have any money. Like, I was making $35,000 a year selling coupons, and, having to borrow money for, to make my car payment, like do payday loans sometimes to make my car payment.
Yeah.
And so I was, oh, what am I supposed to do? And I felt like, this is really what I want you to do, John. You need to do it. And I don't know how to do it. Okay, but I'll do it. And so, I was an outside sales, so I really had the opportunity to test it out, But I walked into my boss there at Money Mailer, and I said, man, I have this thing that I feel like I'm supposed to do. I kind of told him a little bit about what it was going to be like. And I have to quit because I don't feel right about, you're paying me. If I'm out there trying to sell what I'm thinking about, that's wrong, And so I quit. I had 1 paycheck coming to me. I just gotten a defibrillator pacemaker because I had 40 to 50% scar tissue in my heart. So I was operating at a quarter of what a normal heart was operating at, even with a pacemaker. So here I am, weak, no job, no money, no experience. I never even got hired as a manager for anything, And here I am. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start a business. I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I just went out and started talking to contractors about this. And I said, I feel like I'm supposed to separate the good guys from the bad guys. Yeah. And that's where it started. I created my first website, which was called Mansfield Service Connection. It was like just a local, just for that one town. And I had about 15 contractors that were paying me $100 a month, and I would take all their money and buy ads in, like, I bought an ad in the Money Mailer. I bought an ad in a magazine that was there, and so that's where it started. But I kept thinking, gosh, I've got to be able to get them more than just here in Mansfield. And so the concept wasn't how can I make more money? It was how can I help these people get more? And as a businessman, that was really didn't make sense to business people. It was more like, it's usually, we talked about this earlier, it's a dog eat dog world out there, man. And it's all about how much can I take from everybody, and get away with it. It really is kind of where it is. But I did not, the heart that God had given me to do this was, I want to protect people, and I want to protect more people. How do I do that? And so a couple of things happened, hiccups along the way that blocked what I was actually doing with these small communities. The magazine told me that I couldn't put their names in the ad anymore, which meant that they would have to go to this website that I hadn't even, I built the website for that Mansfield Service Connection, but I felt like because they're not going to have their name in the ad that they wouldn't want to do it anymore. And so I kind of hit that wall. At the same time, I was building my third website. Like, this happened very quickly. We didn't skip a beat. We were able to pay our bills, and people were signing, contracts with me before I even had a website. I was out there with a yellow legal pad drawing what I was going to be doing. The favor of God was all over it. They saw the need. I want to be separated from the bad guys. Yep. And so I was on my third little local website when I was explaining it to a roofer. I'd just gotten the news that I couldn't put their names in the ads anymore, so I didn't know where I was going from there. And I said, well, it's kind of like being part of a Good Contractors List. And whenever I said that, it was like a bell rung, and I was like, "That's the name. That's the name." And so I went to GoDaddy. I bought all the domain names that I could that had good contractors, the Good Contractors List, Good Contractors List, however, all the versions. And then I went back to everybody and said, "Hey, listen, I think I'm going to we're going to have to build a different website. It's going to be called the Good Contractors List, and it's going to be bigger. So y'all are just going to have to hang on because we're not doing what we've been doing." And so I went out and just started talking to contractors about this again with my yellow legal pad because I didn't have enough money to build a website. And so it started. People just started rallying around it, and it became like, I would hear from contractors, "Listen, if this guy's on the list, I don't want to be a part of it." And I'm like, this is different. I've never heard this in any kind of sales thing that I've ever done. That guy's there, I'm not going to be there, because what they saw was I was building a community. Yeah. And when they saw they wanted to protect the community. And so it just started evolving like that. And next thing you know, contractors are saying, "This is the guy I want to be on the list with me. This is the guy, that I want." They were saying, "These guys are my competitors, but they're about 20 miles away and they need to be on this list." So the community started building, and it took about 2 years, but I mean, it happened. And in 2014, we started running radio and TV ads, and that's it. Here we are. Now we're going national, and it's just blowing my mind because it's the timing of it all. And when you hear the whole story, that's mind blowing, honestly. But that's where
I will happily have you back as a guest. I do want to point out, it's amazing as entrepreneurs, we think we know what we're going to build, but sometimes you get that nudge. And once you let go of ego and say, "I'm in, I surrender," it's amazing how literally that overnight success happens. It just took decades of work, right?
Yeah. 14 years of overnight,
I love it. Well, where can people go to hear more about you or connect with Good Guys? Where can they find more about what you're doing?
Well, the name of the website is thegoodcontractorslist.com. And I do want to tell one other quick story, if that's okay.
Sure.
What I found myself being in this was kind of a protector, because what really, when people really started making fun of me and kind of laughing at me, is when I said, "Hey, listen, I trust these guys. I believe they're all good, and I'm going to put a guarantee to the homeowner." So we did one step that nobody anywhere was doing, is that we guaranteed the work of every contractor, every job they did. If they found them on our list, they were guaranteed. So we've backed over $5 billion in work here in just Dallas-Fort Worth over the last 14 years. And we have truly separated the good guys from the bad guys. Now, what's cool, and where I want to bring God back into this, is that I was praying for death. He gave me a purpose. And my purpose was to protect people, to stand in the gap, to stand in the middle between a homeowner and a contractor. And we actually go to homes if there's a disagreement that can't be worked out. We'll go to the home and look at the project. So we truly have protected people, and we've had to take some guys off the list, and we've had to just work through that issue of fear that homeowners have. And they'll kick somebody out of their house real quick if they start doubting them, you know? And so that ends up being a really bad thing. But so here, years later, in 2022, Jeff, I had a heart transplant. So my heart finally reached the end of its life cycle. It wasn't going to go any further. And so I ended up getting a heart transplant. And there's no way that this could ever happen outside of a miracle. I ended up meeting the donor family and found out the name of my donor. And so his last name is Wachel, and it's Wachal, and y'all can look it up. It's a Bohemian name that means watchman, protector, you know, a watchman. And so, but his first name was Christian. So God literally gave me the heart of a Christian watchman. So
nothing subtle about that, was there?
No, I mean, so here I'm going to give you a purpose. Your purpose is to be a watchman, to be the protector, to be that guy in the middle, to bring this to the world. And I'm going to confirm it by giving you a real, true heart that undeniably, you know, and God used names all the way through the Bible to represent what he was trying to do. And that's not on me. There's nothing I did to earn any of this. There's nothing on my resume that brought me here.
Yeah.
It is God doing his thing. I'm just a willing vessel. I'm the guy that says, okay, I don't care if people laugh at me. I don't care if it sounds stupid. I'm doing what you're showing me to do. And Jesus did that same thing. He goes, I didn't do anything that I didn't see the Father doing, you know? And so when we surrender to him, my life is just proof. And there's millions of lives out there that can say the same thing. My life is proof that God can do things that I could have never imagined when I surrender to him. And so,
well, now, John, I'm going to have to interrupt. I have to be mindful, let you back to your day and me to mine. But I want to thank you for being on the show. And you're going to be back, I promise, because I think we've just touched the tip of the iceberg. So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.